Good morning, members. Thank you. My name is Lauren Dimitry, and I am here on behalf of Texans Care for Children, a statewide nonprofit. And you'll probably hear from a lot of us today. I think a lot of us are supportive of Representative Rodriguez's House Bill 643 for the same reason. I can tell you that the primary reason that we at Texans Care support House Bill 643 is because we know that school breaks for summer, but hunger doesn't. And hunger impacts children's cognition, growth, development, and future success. You heard from the previous testimony that this food insecurity is often related to child obesity. This is a really important issue facing the state of Texas, a significant one that we're dealing with. And also, we think that the way that the bill is crafted is designed to give school districts as much flexibility as possible while still addressing this hunger issue. And so we do thank you for your consideration of this bill. We're always here for a resource for you about these issues, about child nutrition, and we thank you. I welcome any questions.
Any questions, members?
Thank you.
Oh, excuse me. Mr. Kleinsmith has one.
Sure.
It looks like there are provisions that require the school to request a waiver of participating in this program.
Well, and my understanding of that is that of the vast majority of waivers that were requested, most of them were granted. I know that 113 school districts were allowed to, or were given permission to opt out of the program.
Again, it looks like it puts an additional requirement on the school district to take some positive action to not participate, as opposed to voluntarily participating in the program.
Well, and my understanding of that is that this is currently what schools do. It's just that we're lowering the threshold so that more children have access to healthy food. So many school districts do this on an annual basis now and are able to get the waivers and don't have to participate in the program if it's an undue burden. But I think an important side of the flexibility issue is that it allows school districts to not only offer the summer program, but if it's an undue burden, they can partner with community centers, churches, groups like that, and it actually can alleviate some of the burden and also create new relationships between the school and the community.
If the school district takes no action, does that mean they do participate? They're required to participate? Let's say the school board and the administration takes no action concerning this program. Does that mean that they are required to participate?
You know, I'm unaware of how TDA would handle that or if there are any sort of repercussions, but that's a great question, and I'd love to get back with you on that.
Dr. Anderson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate you coming down and testifying today. I kind of want to piggyback on what Representative Kleinsmith was saying, and I've seen situations where schools have very low participation in the program. There's a question about transportation and other things, and I wonder what you would think about having an opt-in provision as opposed to an opt-out provision.
Well, I think we would be concerned about changing how it's done currently. We think that offers an advantage that we do know that transportation in rural areas, that can be a real challenge, and those are exemptions that are all written into the bill, and my understanding is that's how it is currently, that it does allow districts to opt out if there is a transportation issue or if it's an undue burden in certain specific senses, and I know that population or the number of students served and also transportation are two of those issues. I think that from our perspective at Texans Care, what we are really trying to address is this food insecurity issue and making sure that there isn't what's called sort of the hunger gap between when school gets out and when school gets in. And I think that there's room to allow schools to opt out but also making sure that it's not an undue burden to opt out. So I'm not familiar with the exact process. I do know that schools go through it, and that might be worth considering talking to them, seeing what that situation is like for them and how if it is a difficult process, streamlining it or something to that effect.
Okay, because I think as far as tax dollars, be it federal or state, tax dollars in general, we want to try and make sure we maximize the bang for the buck. And I've seen circumstances where with all the advertising, with all the encouragement, they just don't get much participation. And so one is left to question, well, is it really something that's needed if it's offered and nobody avails themselves? And then how the schools, the burden process for the schools to participate is a consideration. So we might might look at that, but I appreciate your testimony.
Yeah, and that's an ongoing process. I think some of it is really engaging those churches, those faith groups, and those community centers, because many of them are willing to jump in and support the school in that, but there's a need for awareness about the program. It's not as well known as, say, a lunch program, for example. But I appreciate your thoughts, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Miles?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Ma'am, 643 doesn't use any state dollars, is that correct?
That's correct.
And 643, your intent is not to change the policy, is that correct? Or to enlarge the pool?
It's really just to capture more students who we know are struggling.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. Any other questions, members? Mr. Isaac?
This is funded from federal dollars, correct?
That's correct.
So if we get more schools participating, then we bring in more of our federal tax dollars back into the state, or is there a set pool?
My understanding is that we would be bringing more federal dollars into the state of Texas.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you.